right. Hey, folks. Welcome to Gun Owners Radio. Boy, is this a crazy country we live in. This ought to be a fun show.
Yeah, right.
Hey, did you know Americans stop or prevent a violent crime 1 to 3 million times per year with a gun? That's right, with an M. Studies from the Florida State, the CDC, and the Crime Prevention Research Center show that guns are used to protect life 25 times more often than when they are used to take a life. That's 25 times. And trust me, that estimate is low. And if you believe that good people deserve the best tools to defend themselves and their families, then you should be a member of San Diego County Gun Owners. San Diego County Gun Owners makes it easy to connect with the community that's fighting to defend and restore your Second Amendment right. Become a member today. It's only $10 a month. Go to SDCGO.org. That's SDCGO job. SCD.
Easy for you to say.
/join. God, I had
SDCGO.org/join. That's San Diego County Gun Owners.
You
always, it's your first day. You know what? We're just going to edit that out and post, so no one will hear it.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. So we got a lot going on. We have John Russo in the studio. How you doing, John?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Good. We're going to talk to John in the next couple of segments, and look forward to that. And, of course, at the 5 o'clock hour, we're going to have Matthias Quallenberg in. Really great guy. We'll talk more about him, both instructors extraordinaire. We're going to go into the Imperial Beach moratorium on retail gun sales, which we'll talk all about. I couldn't believe the UT actually covered that. It got picked up, but we'll talk about how it's maybe not as bad as people think, but it's not as good as the anti-gunners hope. So it should be pretty interesting. Don't forget, Gun Prom tickets are on sale right now. Go to gunprom.com. That's the best banquet in town. The most fun Second Amendment happening all year, and it's September 16th. Individual tickets are early bird special on sale right now for $99. We had our monthly meetings last week in San Diego. They all went really, really well. Joe Dramisi, our friend and cohort, he was there talking about pepper spray. Did you see that, Alicia? Did you go to the monthly meetings?
I was not able to make it that one. No.
So he, all accounts were he did an amazing job. He's such a good teacher. He's so knowledgeable. He did such a great job, and there was a big push this year for more guest speakers at the monthly meetings, and I think it's going really, really well. I think people are doing a really great job. Big positive shout out to Elliot and Jeff Malik, and a bunch of the crew who said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to take over and change the meetings a little bit and make them even better." So I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Alicia, how are you?
Fantastic.
Yeah? What'd you do today?
Spent all day on the range.
That's what you said. Yeah. What were you doing on the range?
Just private lessons.
Oh, wow.
A little bit of everything.
Probably shooting.
Probably shooting. You think so? Look at you and your watch. What are you wearing? That's not your normal watch. Are you showing off?
It's a Danny Sullivan.
So you can take a picture.
Limited edition.
Danny Sullivan. Was he the guy in the Partridge Family?
He spun in the Indy 500 and won.
Oh, wow.
He spun out going down the straightaway.
And still won?
Yeah.
Is this new?
I've had it. I wore it just so I could hopefully get on the Instagram page.
Oh, yeah.
Since
all right.
Nobody ever cares about my watches.
We can do that.
I dusted it off.
I'm doing the Citizen today. This isn't even my nicest watch, the Citizen. It's not my nicest watch. I love it. I wear it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't think Citizen gets enough credit for
but
their
have you ever used a Velcro band?
When I was like 8.
I like Velcro bands.
Velcro bands.
Because it's just, you put it up. Hey, when I buy it, not this one, but when I used to, I don't do it anymore because of you. But when I used to go to Walmart and get my watches, I would sweet talk the girl into taking the Velcro band and putting it on because I couldn't get the little thingies.
Do you have Velcro in your shoes too, Dave?
No, I have.
Drawn the line?
Oh, no. I forgot what I'm wearing. That's even worse because it slogs.
Oh, jeez.
Hey, when you get my age, it's kind of hard to get to the floor. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think you guys are going to be interested in this this story about the Imperial Beach moratorium. I think that
which one's that?
The moratorium on gun stores. Did you see it in the paper? Yeah. We'll talk about it at the Union Tribune. We'll read the article, and then I'll talk a little bit about how you're not going to believe this, but the media sensationalized the whole thing.
What?
I know that sounds crazy.
I'm totally shocked that would be the case.
You'd think they'd be reliable. And I'm not sure why. I'm not sure. I know that sounds funny. Like,
Yes,
what do you mean
you
you're not
do.
sure why? Well, I'm not sure if the Union Tribune is just trying to get more eyeballs and clicks, or if they're trying to influence, anti-gun regulations. I can't really tell. I think this one felt like they were trying to sensationalize it for clicks. And then what happened? So this happened on Wednesday. I don't want to steal all my thunder here, but this happened on Wednesday
Your
night.
thunder.
And then nothing happened Thursday. And then the Union Tribune came out with this article, and then Friday morning, like 9:15, my phone starts ringing, Friday morning, and NBC and all these other places wanted to cover it because, it was in the Union Tribune. They never would have covered it otherwise, but the Union Tribune made it sound like it was a whole big thing. So I don't know. John, do you know what I'm talking about at all? Did you hear about this?
I did not. No.
You don't read the Union Tribune?
Well, I live in Marietta and work up north, so I don't get down
they
here
don't.
too much.
Yeah, well,
And they don't have fish in here.
you don't clean fish and
That's the only reason UT is any good for is the fish.
or if you have a parakeet, come on, all fairness.
I wouldn't do that to
You
him.
gotta line the bottom of the cage.
No, my bird reads.
Your bird reads.
Yeah, so I couldn't do that to him. What about you, Alicia? Did you know about it?
I was not aware.
What?
But I'm not surprised.
All right,
You
everybody,
mentioned-
attention.
Yeah, I guess-
Alicia Curtin doesn't know.
I gotta
something.
tell you, I think I'm probably just assuming everybody knows about it.
No, I
Nobody
didn't know
knows
about it.
at
Did
all.
KUSI cover it?
No,
They didn't
No.
call you.
They did. We talked about it. So honestly, I'm not gonna. You know what? Because I don't want to steal my thunder. We're doing a whole segment at 4:45 on it, so we'll talk about it at
Well, stop
4:45.
teasing
It's
us.
extremely interesting. I'll just say this: that Imperial Beach, the nice little beach town with the still one of the it's a big Navy community.
Best kept secret ever. They've done
Yeah.
so much for that town.
Well, they just put a moratorium. In other words, they stopped all the ability for a gun store to exist in Imperial Beach. Which sounds like, oh my gosh, oh geez. Well, let me tell you the whole story.
Tell it when at the
I
4:45.
think we're all going to be okay, but it was pretty interesting.
All right, then let's talk about your Jeep.
Talk about my Jeep still in the
Is it
shop.
running?
I know
No,
it's not out there.
Still
It's
in the
not
shop.
out there.
Still in the shop. But I was up in Orange County. I'm still up in Orange County.
That's
I came
because you're
down just
driving a
for the show.
Beamer.
Yeah, well,
Oh, you live up there now?
No. I just came down for the show today. I'm
But I
up
mean,
there until
that's-
this week. No. I'm just up there for Orange County gun owners. We have Orange County gun owners. We have Inland Empire. So I got to
know
go up
that.
there. I got to go up there once a month, and
Are you going
make
back
things,
tonight?
Make things roll. Yeah. After the
Here's
show.
the big question: any good food up there?
No.
Gosh, what did I have? I don't think I had. Oh, I went to this sushi place right in Huntington Beach, like right on the beach yesterday.
really didn't.
Yeah, I took the afternoon off and I went to the beach.
Ate sushi?
Oh my God, it was delicious.
No, it is
It
not.
is too.
No, it is not.
I don't remember the name of it either.
I bet you don't remember what you ate
I
either.
think it was called Kai, like Kai, and it was super good. I eat like everything.
Well, I know that.
I asked the waitress, I was like, hey, what's your favorite thing? And she named like 2 things, and I had like that times,
9 of them.
times 10. It's like, oh my God, this is so good. So anyway. All right, when we get back, we're going to introduce formally John
All right.
Russo and talk about all kinds of interesting stuff.
Yeah, and not sushi.
Maybe, I don't know.
No.
John, are you a sushi guy?
I like sushi.
There you go.
Do you like sushi, Alicia?
Nope. But you know what that means.
What's that mean?
You don't have to worry about me shanking something off your plate. More for you.
You will never have
right.
to worry about that. I'll give you my plate. Hey, if you own a gun in California, you should have an attorney that specializes in California gun laws on your speed dial. Because if you ever have legal matters that involve firearms, you need California's firearm lawyer, John Dillon, especially if you have questions about red flag laws, gun registration, gun transportation, or maybe you just need to know that your guns are California compliant. Our trusted firearms attorney is John Dillon. John Dillon specializes in California gun laws. Put his number on your phone right now, 760-642-7150, 760-642-7150. Do it now.
Okay, our first guest we just introduced in the intro segment, but I'd like to reintroduce Mr. John Russo. How are you, sir?
I'm well. Thank you for having me.
You bet. Thanks for coming. So tell us a little bit about you. What's your background?
Well, I was a police officer for 29 years. Worked for Escondido PD. Had a great career there. Got to do a lot of neat things. I was retired as a sergeant. I was a detective, worked sex crimes and homicide, was a sniper on the SWAT team.
Oh, wow.
But my passion has always been teaching firearms.
Yeah.
I've been teaching firearms for over 27 years. I have my own private company. I teach CCW classes in San Diego, and I teach classes around the country.
That's nice. Now, what is it, the teaching or the firearms that you like better?
I like the teaching. You know, I've been teaching police, military, civilians, kids for coming up on close to 30 years now, and I love it all. But I got to say, the CCW classes have been one of the highlights of my career. I really enjoy teaching citizens self-defense and seeing them get the right to protect themselves.
Now that we can get CCWs, right?
Right.
Yeah. So what was it? Did you spend the whole, you said how many, 29 years?
29 years.
29 years was entirely on Escondido PD?
Yes, sir.
That's amazing. I don't think that happens a whole lot.
Not too much. Usually we get hurt and don't make it the whole distance.
I was going to say, so making it 29 years is an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Making it 29 years on the same department, no matter the department, unless you're like, I don't know, like Mayberry or something, you know what I mean? But like any kind of, most major departments, making it 29 years in the same department is really unusual.
Yeah, it can be.
What got you into law enforcement?
You know, it's funny. As a kid, I grew up in Julian. My dad had a ranch of about 600 acres in the middle of 30,000 acres of private property and cattle ranch. We didn't have a phone. We didn't have electric power. All I knew was guns and hunting and fishing. And at an early age, I knew I wanted to be a police officer.
Wow. So you just went through and
Yeah, I applied as a youngster. I was lucky and got hired right after my 22nd birthday, and spent my whole career at Escondido. So when I got to Escondido, I already had a background in firearms, so it was just kind of a natural career path. So no matter what I did at Escondido, whether I was working as a detective or a sniper on the SWAT team, it was a natural fit for me to be a firearms instructor and an armor and do gun repairs, all that good stuff.
Now, what did you like about Escondido's department?
Escondido's just a great city, and it was a great department. I can't say enough good things about them. I had a blessed career.
Plus, it's close to Julian.
I was close to Julian. You know, funny thing, I didn't really know much about Escondido when I got hired there. My grandparents lived there, but they passed away in the late 70s, early 80s.
Oh, yeah.
So I hadn't been back to Escondido, you know, for almost 15 plus years by the time I became a police officer there. My family was from the Santee, El Cajon area. So in my mind, as I got hired at Escondido as a young cop, all I could think of was, this town's full of one-way streets. How am I going to figure this out? And it's really just about 2 one-way streets, but it was
And
good.
how many people? What's the population approximately of Escondido? Are you aware?
Yeah, it's approximately 160,000.
So 100. Here's what kills me: 160,000 people. That's not a. I mean, we kind of think of it like, oh, it's this little town, whatever. That's a city. 160,000 people.
It's big. Yeah,
You know, we have 18 city councils in San Diego County. 18. But you know, kind of all the oxygen gets sucked out of the room by one. That's the city of San Diego, and I think it makes it more confusing because it's, the county and the city are both named San Diego. But if you take Escondido and put it anywhere else in the country, it'd be a fairly major city. You know?
You're correct, as well as the police department. You know, we often, in Southern California, we have so many police departments and so many large police departments, we kind of don't realize what happens around the rest of the country. But the average police department nationwide is under 30 officers. So when you have an agency like Escondido at 150 to 170 sworn, depending on the decade, it's a good-sized agency. It's a 37-square-mile city, so there's a lot going on.
And a lot of people don't realize how many Hispanic communities live in Escondido.
Sure, yeah.
And it's due to all the agriculture. And that group up there, I always joke, though, you have to have a passport to go from San Diego to Escondido.
Yeah,
and Escondido has to have a passport to go from Escondido to San Diego.
Yeah, Escondido's a very good city, very good population. They're very pro-police. They take care of their police department.
The mayor was just at KUSI Saturday.
Dane?
Yeah.
Dane White?
Good.
Yeah, with his
brand new mayor?
Yeah, with his white rimmed glasses.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good dude.
Got to get him some new glasses.
But a lot happens with 160,000 people.
It does. A lot
There's
happens.
a lot of like some pretty serious crime. What kind of coordination would you guys do with the sheriff's department and other departments?
You know, we worked well with every department, but I have to give the sheriffs special recognition. They were kind of our close ally. We had a great relationship with them regardless of the division. When I was on SWAT, we worked tight with their SWAT team. We were each other's first call when the other needed backup. When I was a detective, we worked close. When we had big cases that spanned outside of our city limits into the county, we were tight with the detectives.
What surprised us about Escondido? What would you say about the crime in Escondido that maybe we'd be surprised to hear?
You know, I don't know if you'd be surprised to hear it or not, but Escondido is a busy city. It has gangs, it has violence, it has drugs, it has homeless. So, these things are like any other city at this time in our society where they're being dealt with and in some cases amplified and magnified today versus the way they were maybe 5, 10, 15 years ago. But throughout my career at Escondido, we had plenty of murders, plenty of homicides, plenty of rapes, plenty of sexual assaults, gang violence. Escondido had it all, and I'm not bragging about that, of course, but that is just something as a police officer there. I always said, and I did the hiring for Escondido for many years towards the end of my career, but what I always said about Escondido was if you want to be a cop and if you want to actually work and help people, it's a great city to work in because you have plenty of good people who need your help. You have a good, diverse population. You've got some good income and revenue, so the city's able to flourish and take care of their divisions, specifically the police department, in my case. But at the same time, you got plenty of crime. And that's why I say there are other cities that maybe don't get as much action, quote unquote, and a young cop needs that. That's what you want to be a cop for. You want to help people. You want the action, and Escondido had it all.
Well, you don't want to sit at a desk all day long. I drive up there every single week. And I don't notice much homelessness.
No, well, Escondido has a lot of...
Unless I'm going to the wrong parts of Escondido. But, pretty much anywhere you go nowadays, you can always find it. You don't have to drive very far east, west, north, south.
It's everywhere.
But I don't seem to see that you guys or Escondido have that big of a problem.
Well, how big of a problem it is relative.
Yeah,
what are we comparing it to?
Say San Diego.
Right. Compared to downtown San Diego, Los Angeles, sure, it's nothing compared to that.
Right.
But compared to the way it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it's probably a lot worse now than it was then. But I will say we've got a great mayor, city council, chief of police. They all work hard. They do well, doing their best to try to deal with it. And homelessness is a huge problem. Right. It's a huge, difficult problem to solve because there's so many different facets to it. Mm-hmm. It's not a simple problem to just say, oh, well, they're all druggies. Oh, well, they're all, bad people.
Let's all build them houses and let them live in them and they'll be fine.
And the flip side, a lot of people say, oh, it's all mental illness. It's not. There's no one right answer. There's every facet to the homeless problem, and you can't approach it with just one paintbrush.
Well, look at that one lady that came on and says, I'm spoiled.
Right.
I got everything I need.
Well, and
that's a problem.
That was a big surprise for a lot of people, but for most working cops, that's nothing new. We've known that for decades.
Yeah.
How many times tell people what you're talking about? What now?
Well, if you don't mind the shameless plug, KUSI interviewed this lady, and she goes, "I got it made. I get money. I get food. I get I got a tent. I got everything." She says, I am spoiled rotten.
She's being provided for by the government.
Exactly. Yeah. But they're not fixing her problem.
Right.
And she, at this point, doesn't think she has a problem because she's got everything she needs.
And, John, you're saying cops in Escondido are going, we know. We know they're being...
We've known that for decades. Now, I'm not talking about the mental health side. The mental health side is a whole different animal.
Totally.
Those people truly need our help. But there is an element in the homeless society that simply doesn't want help. Because it's easy. It's easy when you're provided services. It's easy when you're provided food, shelter, meals, whatever it is you need, and you don't have to do the work.
And you live in San Diego.
And that's the other thing. Southern California makes it easy to be
homeless. Go to Alaska.
There are many people, and in my career I spoke to them directly, and they had no problem telling me this, that it takes a lot of work to have a life. Mm-hmm. To have a job, have a bill, have bills, have a car payment, have a mortgage. That takes work. And some people have decided, I don't want that work.
Well, they found out they can survive without it.
That's correct.
That's the problem. And then we, as government, all they just do is throw money at it, throw money at it. And then they look at you. I mean, how long? what was it, Gavin? I like that.
Governor.
Governor.
I'm gonna
The
start calling
governor.
him
It does
that.
shorten it.
But he just, he mentioned the other day that it's been sent, we've had decades of homelessness. And you've been throwing money at it, and it still hasn't fixed the problem.
Right.
Doesn't somebody want to stop and
So
say,
let's elect him president.
yeah,
So what I want to talk about, we're going to go to a break here in just a minute, but being 29 years, I'm sure things were very, very different 29 at the beginning of 29 years than they were at the end of 29 years.
Sure.
So I want to talk a little bit about that, but I definitely want to work in career law enforcement. What were your thoughts, and what were your colleagues' thoughts, and what was the direction when it comes to gun owners? How were they viewed from law enforcement? What do you think should have been different? How are your feelings about CCW holders and all that good stuff? When we come back, I really want to delve into that and talk more about it. But I can't believe that Escondido, it just baffles me. Escondido is a big city. It just baffles me that Escondido, which is such a nice, inviting place, such a beautiful little town with great places to eat, they have a gang problem. Like it's heartbreaking,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I want to talk about what do you get? I mean, what's to solve the recruitment problem? Because that
is a
problem.
tough topic.
That's even worse than homelessness. Orange County Gun Owners is dedicated to preserving and restoring Orange County self-defense rights. And if you live in Orange County and want to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, you need to join OCGunOwners.com/join. Orange County Gun Owners is the organization to help get more pro-Second Amendment officials elected. Become a member today. OCGunOwners.com/join.
So we're talking to current firearms instructor and retired law enforcement John Russo. 29 years on the Escondido PD. One of the things I want to talk about first is how are things different in year one compared to year 29?
Boy, that's a loaded question. That's a big question. Well, first, just some of the intangibles. When I first started my career was 1993, and in Escondido, we didn't have computers in the cars. We, as far as use of force options, we had batons and chemical sprays. At that time, we were just transitioning to OC from Mace. And that was, those were significant changes that happened right after that. We got computers in all the vehicles. We began to get other less lethal force options, such as beanbag rounds, tasers, pepper ball, different things like that. And towards the late 90s, early 2000s, there was a huge push for less lethal options.
Why is that? Why do you think that? What do you, in your memory, what was the push for less lethal?
I think it was a combination of factors. One was there were numerous high-profile incidents in the media of individuals that were shot by law enforcement because they had no other option. One of them was in San Diego with a homeless person with a large, heavy stick, and the officers did a great job. They did everything they could think of to try to stop this person, and finally the person was presenting a lethal threat to them, trying to hit them with a stick, and they felt that was their only option. I remember at that time, our chief at the time, Dwayne White, great chief, came to me and he said, I don't want that to happen. Actually, I shouldn't say that. He didn't come to me. He came to our entire unit, our firearms training unit, and said, I don't want this to happen at Escondido. I want you guys researching every less lethal option we can. And we did. Escondido has always been at the forefront of new technology, new equipment, and they continue to do so. So we went out and looked at everything. I remember testing net guns and you name it. Whatever was out there, we wanted to make sure we put our hands on it. And the taser had just been kind of reinvented at that time, and that's when we brought that to Escondido.
Well, so there are a lot of less lethal options. Less lethal options in general have come a long way in the past 30 years. If someone out there, genuinely and sincerely asks the question, well, gee, could police officers do their job with nothing but less lethal options? Is that what would you say to that? Is there a possibility?
I'd say absolutely not.
And talk about why.
You don't bring a knife to a gunfight. That's the old adage, right? If somebody's trying to kill you with a lethal weapon, whether it's a firearm, a knife, a machete, a less lethal option may be something you can try if you have the right staffing, personnel and tactics. But ultimately, you can't stop somebody with a less lethal option. It's not a guarantee. Shooting somebody with a taser is not a guarantee. If somebody's trying to shoot you and you shoot them with a taser, it may or may not work, but you ultimately may still be shot.
See, I've always looked at this. Whenever you see a police officer, for example, the lady that pulled her gun instead of her taser. Okay. I think that's an adrenaline rush when you're involved in a situation, could be life or death. That's why I think when you see a police officer shoot somebody, it's not one time. It's multiple times. And I think it's don't you kind of think the adrenaline is in the, and you can hear them screaming, when they're yelling and it gets caught on their cameras.
Sure.
And I think that's probably a harder thing to train a police officer, is to be able to how to keep your wits about you in a situation like that.
It is, and that's why it's so important to train. Training is often touted as the problem or the culprit when something goes wrong. So when an officer is found to be at fault and having performed in a negative way, it's pointed at training. They didn't get enough training. They didn't have the tools, right?
Well, even before training, isn't there an element of that assessment that's done prior to employment?
There is. There's a lot of things that go into an officer. But what I wanted to say about training was that it's also one of the first things that are cut. So when budgets get tight,
sure,
they don't get the tax revenue they need. Right. What do they cut? They got to cut budgets somewhere, and often it's training, because training costs money.
Right.
It costs money in equipment, but the biggest expense is hours. You've got to send officers to training. Well, when we're short on staffing to begin with, that means they probably are going to go on overtime. So it costs money.
Well, and nobody talks about that.
Right.
You ever noticed it? I mean, if you bring up training, okay, well, we'll do this. Remember the two police officers we had in here? They were females from two different departments, and we weren't allowed to mention the department. I'm not going to mention it now. But if they wanted training, they had to go get their own training on their own nickel. But yet if they got into a situation, it's like, well, you just didn't have training.
Right.
Well, you didn't provide training.
No, and that's a fact. And
I think the public needs to know that.
I was the training sergeant for many years. I was the range sergeant for a couple of decades and in charge of all the firearms training. And, we were very blessed in that even in tough times, we found a way to provide the training.
Right.
But not every agency does that.
And some agencies, you have to buy your own weapon.
You do. Got to buy your own weapon. And like you said, put yourself through training.
And ammo? And ammo?
Some you have to buy your own ammo, sure.
Or they greatly reduce the frequency that you have to qualify to. So
that makes no sense.
No, well.
That makes no sense.
And Alicia made a good point about it starts before training.
Sure.
I've always said, as I said, I did the hiring for many years. If you hire quality people, you're going to have a better product down the road. But if you hire inferior people who don't have the skill sets, don't have the mental capacity, don't have the ethics, that's a big one. Don't have the desire to help people. That's a big thing in law enforcement, is do you truly want to get into this job to help people? And that needs to be at the forefront of your motivation. Because
there's a lot of police officers throughout their whole career never pulled a weapon.
Correct.
Never shot anybody.
Sure.
So
most police officers will never shoot anybody.
That's true.
Police officers in a city like Escondido, for example, they pull their weapon all the time. You
got it.
Yeah, you're not going through your career without pulling your weapon. But as far as firing it, most are not going to shoot their weapon.
So let's go back to the question I had before we went to break. With everybody defunding the police and all this ridiculous things, and now we've got ourselves in a situation where it's really tough to try to bring back the force. How do you recruit and stay at that high level that you're looking for? I mean, it's got to be one of the toughest jobs out there right now.
It's incredibly tough. I'll tell you how I did it when I was doing the hiring, and a little story to share with you regarding that. When I got hired in 1993, I was a young 21-year-old at the time. I was going through the application process. And, of course, not expecting to be hired. I was just happy to get a job anywhere. I was applying everywhere in the county. At that time in the county in 92, there was kind of a hiring freeze. People weren't hiring. It was tough to get a job. So when I got hired at Escondido, there were 600 of us in the initial application. When I got the job offer, I was first called and told you were number 5. We're only hiring 4 people. Sorry, kid. A week later, I got a call back, said, hey, you got lucky. The number 4 guy lied on his application. You slid into the number 4 spot.
Out of 600.
Out of 600. But here's what I remember about it. The hiring person told me, you better have your act together, kid, because I got 15 guys behind you that I want to hire. that are good candidates. We just don't have the spots. And if you mess up, I'll bring one of them in. So I remember that.
Yeah.
Now fast forward 20 plus years. I'm the sergeant doing the hiring.
Wow.
Every test, instead of 600, we'd be lucky to get 100, maybe 150. Out of those, I would have 10 open spots. I'd be lucky if out of that 100, 2 of them qualified. So my speech to them at the beginning of every test cycle would be, look around the room. There's nobody in this room who's your competition. You're your only competition. We've got spots if you're a quality person.
So you have
so
to
the
tell
point
them
of that,
the truth. You have to be blatantly honest right up front.
I'm not going to lie to them. I'm going to tell them the truth. These are the qualifications we're looking for. The problem is the people who possess those, and that's where we can get into a sociological and societal debate.
Right.
Is where are those people now?
Right.
Have they stopped existing, or have they just said, I don't want to do that job because I see how society and the media treats law enforcement?
So what do you think it is? Because I remember 20-something years ago, I took the cop test down for SDPD. Hundreds of people.
Right.
And they didn't care if I passed the test or not. They had hundreds of people to pick from. So what do you think has changed?
I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of individuals that the top candidates just don't want to be police officers. They see what we're put through. They see what the media puts them through.
And how much money you don't make.
Sure. There's always a financial component. When I was doing the hiring, I hired many people who took a pay cut.
Right.
Who were older in the sense of they weren't a young kid trying to get a job. They were in their late 20s, early 30s. They had a career. They were doing well. Mm-hmm. They were giving up some money to do the job they felt they were called to do. Right. The other problem is, I'll throw it out at social media. There's a lot of components to social media we can blame, but part of that is now the youth of this country are doing stupid things that is documented for life. So now when you try to get a job that has an intense background, there's a lot of evidence of your improprieties that will haunt you.
Social media?
Yeah, we do.
Oh, I didn't know that, Mike.
So,
do you think that? Yeah, I know. Do you think that there is it used to be that cops were your friend, and they had a very positive outlook, and now I think that's changed. I think it's fair to say that's changed. Has law enforcement earned any of that? I think that's a tough question, but has law enforcement earned any of the negativity that they've gotten over the last few years?
Here's the thing I'll say about that, because I try to never judge and pass opinions around the rest of the country. Mm-hmm. But you can only, say so much when you see stuff glaring at you on the media, on your news feed, wherever it is. And of course, I'll be the first one to say when you see something on the news, you're not getting the whole story. Right. You're getting the sensational angle. But here's a couple facts. I was one of the first ones to always step forward and be willing to hold an officer accountable, even to the point if we had to fire him. I believe, we should be held to a higher standard, and we should ask for the best, but we should treat him as such. When you look around the country, we have such a pervasive media, whether it be TV, cable news, social media, Instagram, Facebook, all these different elements that can blast things in a second, to your phone, to your TV, whatever it is, where 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have that. So you're not seeing all that. Now, what I'm saying is not that you're seeing all this bad stuff that was there before in hiding. That's not the case. The case is when you're only showing a sensational angle, that's all the public sees.
Right. And it also helps. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, when we get back, I want to talk about the Imperial Beach thing, but I also want to talk about, are there any gun laws that helped you as a cop? You know what I mean? Basically, I guess what we're asking is, what gun control laws made a difference from your career when you were a police officer? See if we can get an answer to that.
Hey, have you ever wanted to get a pilot's license? Well, here in San Diego, pilots can fly almost every day, which makes San Diego one of the best places to learn how to fly in the world. Learn to fly with San Diego Flight Training International. Check out their deals just for gun owners. Radio listeners, 1 hour of ground school, 1 hour of flight with an instructor. Yep, you get to fly. It's normally $400. We'll do it for $350. Getting started is real easy. Just call them at 858-569-1822 or just go to SDFTI or 858-569-1822.
So Imperial Beach bans retail gun shops. We're going to talk a little bit about that and go over what happened at the city council meeting, and we're going to talk about basically the way it was written in the Union Tribune and what happens from here. But first, I want to finish up with John. So the question is, what gun control laws made a difference from your career as a police officer?
Well, the short answer is not too many. We've had gun laws on the books for I don't know how many decades, right? Since the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. I can tell you that in 29 years, I never arrested anybody for a gun crime where they legally bought the gun. Now, I'm not speaking for all police officers, of course, but that was my personal experience. I never found gun owners per se to be any special category of criminal. I did find that most criminals that we dealt with, especially gang members, people committing violent crimes, robberies, drug dealers, they didn't buy guns legally. The guns they possessed were illegal. They were guns that they stole, purchased off the streets, so they weren't your typical American gun owner.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Let that sink in for a minute.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Jeez, I never heard that before.
It makes a lot of sense. So what about, real quick, about CCW holders? Generally, in your career over 29 years, what did law enforcement feel about CCW holders?
Law enforcement's a broad topic, but as far as here, the people I worked with, we had no problem with CCW holders. The thing about CCW holders, and I teach CCW classes, and one of the things I tell my students is remind yourself what it took for you to get here. You had to go through a background check. It was a year-long process. So by the time a police officer stops you, they know that. And they know you're a good citizen who has a clean record, who doesn't have any felonies, who has a legal right to possess a firearm. They're not nervous about it. Police officers are nervous about unknown guns. I had someone ask me in one of my classes about a year ago, they knew I was on the SWAT team, and they said, hey, when you were on SWAT, weren't you scared? Or were you ever scared? I forget how they worded it. And it made me think, and I asked a couple of my buddies from the team about it, and we all agreed, no, I don't ever remember being scared on SWAT. And the reason was, by the time we showed up, we knew who the bad guy was, what he was armed with, and there was 20 of us with all the best toys and armor and a tank behind us to solve the problem. But as a police officer, I remember being nervous more than once. It's 2 a.m., you're walking on a dark car, tinted windows, wondering if a gangster's in the back with a shotgun ready to kill you. So that's what makes cops nervous. Once they realize who you are, you're safe, you're a legal gun owner with a permit, they're not afraid of you.
You would think that, I would imagine that if you do show your permit to a police officer that pulled you over, it would probably make them more relieved. I would imagine.
It does. I can't say for every. I can't speak for everybody, but I can tell you that most police officers, once they ascertain that that's your permit, you have a legal permit, they're not. There's no reason for them to be nervous.
Of course.
I got a monopoly. Get out of jail.
There you go. Okay, so what's going on in Imperial Beach? The Union Tribune writes, you can no longer legally buy a gun in Imperial Beach. The City Council on Wednesday adopted an emergency moratorium on new retailers selling firearms and ammunition. Approved on a 4-1 vote, with Councilmember Carol Seabury opposed, the moratorium is effective immediately. The South Bay the South Bay community will not issue any business license for 45 days, though officials could extend the order for up to 2 years. Let's just stop there. That sounds enormously negative, right? It sounds like, that there were a bunch of gun shops in Imperial Beach that can no longer operate, and that they had to do this. It was an emergency moratorium. They had to do this quickly, and all this is. There are no gun shops in Imperial Beach.
I was going to say, I don't think there is any gun shop.
There's not a single gun shop in Imperial Beach. And it wasn't, an emergency. What happened was there was a gun dealer in Imperial Beach, and she's wonderful. Her name's Stephanie. And a lot of military guys know her. She was right out, men and women in the military, because she was right out in front of the base. I can't remember, Stephanie, if you're listening, I apologize. I can't remember if you're a veteran or if you're married to an active duty guy. Okay, so had a military connection. I know a lot of military folks went through her down in Imperial Beach.
So did I.
And you did too?
Yeah.
She's wonderful.
Stephanie. Yeah,
she's
absolutely.
wonderful. So she left the state, came back and said, hey, I want to reopen my business. And it sounds like it's actually going to be even bigger than it was. She wants to do like a shop with clothing and
in Imperial Beach.
In Imperial Beach, yeah. So which is awesome. She went for the permit. Well, it's a whole new city council than it was when she left. And they said, wait a minute, let's take a look at this. We really want to make sure there's nothing in our regs that talks about guns. We really don't know anything about guns. So let's just put this on pause. Let's quickly come up with, let's do an analysis, see if there needs to be any special regulations when it comes to guns. And then at our next city council meeting, we'll get this all figured out. Well, their next city council meeting happens to be in 45 days. So this wasn't some...
so they just don't even...
Now, listen.
You know,
that
I got a job for you on CNN.
Yeah, really.
You'd be good.
The temporary ban comes after the city received a business license application from Outdoor Women LLC, a women's sporting goods business looking to open up a storefront on Palm Avenue, near Florida. She was home run, right? She ran it out of her home.
Correct, out of her garage, correct.
It would sell active apparel and gear for activities such as fishing, hiking, and camping. Owner Stephanie said about 10% of her business would include selling firearms. Unlike the estimated 105 jurisdictions in California that require firearms dealers to obtain a local license in addition to abiding by state and federal requirements, Imperial Beach has no rules on such operations. 105. How many municipalities? There are 18 municipalities just in San Diego County, and only 105 of them have special rules. Now, here's the deal. And we were there, and I got to tell you, that night, Wednesday night, everybody who spoke on behalf of Stephanie and or behalf of the idea of having a gun shop there. I mean, it was really, truly almost overwhelming.
Oh, you went to the meeting?
Oh, yeah, I was there, gave a statement. My whole point, the thing I tried to get across was there's nothing different between a gun retailer and any other retailer. Now, if this were a range, maybe there'd be some consideration for
Noise,
lead,
sure.
noise, maybe. Right. But the idea that there's somehow significantly different because what they're retailing is guns is ridiculous.
Well, more rules and regulations would relate to a gun store than, let's say, a clothing store.
Well, it already
Like
does.
what?
It already does.
Not on the city level. Like what is a city doesn't have to consider anything.
You don't think?
Like, well, I don't. What would they have to consider?
Only if they have ordinances in place.
And this was my next point. My next point was before you just start slapping down some rules and regulations, what problems are you trying to solve? Yeah.
Well, I would look at this from a different angle as a good thing. Mm-hmm. This 45-day stay.
Yeah.
If their intention is to truly research it,
yep.
Because what's going to happen if they grant it today? There's a whole other side of our society that's going to go to that council and with pitchforks saying, why are you allowing this?
Yeah.
And then we've seen it before where the council says, oh, well, let's stop. Mm-hmm. And the poor business owner now has to stop while there's more drama.
Right.
So if the council's truly doing their due diligence and in 45 days says, yep, we've checked all the boxes, you're good to go. Now when those people rise up, the council can tell them,
couldn't agree more, John.
See, that's why he's a good cop.
That's exactly right. I couldn't agree more. It's exactly. I think you're exactly right. I totally agree with you. And I've already been in contact with some of the city council, and one of them in particular, who I felt was definitely on the more cautious side. I don't want to say he was anti, because that's not true. I really got the feeling the city council was like, hey, we just want to do this right.
He just may not know,
right?
And he truly, but he was probably the most cautious, let's say. Mm-hmm. And he was asking some fairly good questions. I'm already, in contact with him. There was a lot of talk of buffer zones. They kept saying, well, I don't know. Do we need to have
schools
buffer
and daycares.
Mm-hmm. Why?
Which isn't that already in place by DOJ and ATF?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's actually.
My understanding is.
I don't know if there are, but the point I made to them was, these buffer zones had nothing to. They didn't come up with buffer zones out of of safety concern. There's not a safety concern.
Right.
There aren't projectiles flying in a gun store, and if there are, that's a huge problem.
And that's already illegal.
And you're going to need more than a buffer.
Well, you need more than a buffer, right? I mean, it's not like, what are you going to do? I mean, the buffer zone has to be 2 miles.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: the buffer zone. It was more like, hey, this adult shop. We don't want an adult shop where kids can see it, so they can be influenced. That was the thinking. We don't want these evil gun people to influence our kids. That's where these buffer zones came up, or how they were created. Hey, gun people are evil, but it just kind of, oh, well, yeah, all right, we'll put a buffer zone by our school. It doesn't actually make sense.
But the trans could come in and have a party at the school.
Well, I don't know about that.
I'm just saying.
But that was, so I'm trying to get that point across. Don't just say, hey, these other 5 municipalities have this rule. We're going to do it too.
Right.
Think about, what are you trying to solve, number one. Number two, what's the actual origin of these things? Were those other municipalities trying to just get rid of gun shops? Because if that's your intention, it'll definitely come out in the regs, just like you're saying, John. And if that's the case, we know exactly what to do with that.
And I agree. And I agree with John, too, because by going 45 days, it's not the end of the world.
Not at all.
And that allows the left or the whatever faction that's going to go after them. It's going to take away their ammunition, so to speak. Because you can say, hey, look, we did the research. Here's the report. Read it. Tell me what we did wrong. And I agree.
Yeah.
But
so, John, how do people find you if they want to train with you?
So for many years, I wrote for gun magazines before starting my own. It's gunsandgame.com.
Gunsandgame.com.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I like that.
So go to gunsandgame.com.
Gunsandgame.com. Yep.
Okay, great.
You'll see all our info on there.
Appreciate it. And thank you for your service.
Thank you for having me. I
Truly
appreciate it.
Inland Empire gun owners strive to be the ounce of prevention in the fight for your gun rights. How do they do it? They do it by fundraising and getting local pro-gun candidates elected. Become a member today. Go to iegunowners.com/join and join the growing number of responsible gun owners stepping up to defend our Second Amendment right. That's iegunowners.com/join.
All right. Subscribe and win. Subscribe to our email list and win some swag. To subscribe, you go to gunowners.com and sign up for our email list, and you'll be up to date on all the happenings, all the Gun Owners Radio ins and outs, ups and downs, and happenings throughout the week. If we have some kind of special something or other going on, you'll learn about it. Or if we put up a new show, whether on podcast, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast, you'll find it there first. So subscribe and win. This week's winner is Fernando Robles. Is that how you say that? Robles? Robles?
Robles.
Congratulations, Fernando. Email prizes@gunownersradio.com to claim your t-shirt or hat. That's prizes@gunownersradio.com. Free training for members. Winners will be announced today. We've been talking about this for a while, I believe. Mm-hmm. So let's see what this is. This is a basic pistol shooting course from San Diego Firearms School. It's a $140 value. Matthias, how are you, sir?
Splendid. How about you?
Fantastic. Now, you donated this, right?
I did indeed.
Well, thank you so much. That's extremely generous.
Yeah.
And you presented at the gun show, the symposium, the CCW Lifestyle. How did that go for you?
That was fun.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What'd you like about it?
I liked that the variety of topics, the variety of speakers,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what? So you donated the basic pistol shooting course. What is that gonna? What do they get? What do they get in the basic pistol shooting course?
So that is an 8-hour class.
Wow.
It is NRA certified.
Nice.
4 hours in the classroom, 4 hours on the range.
Yep.
We'll cover everything from safety. We'll start with that always. Safety, how the gun operates, how to maintain it, selection of ammo, shooting fundamentals, of course. And then later on we go to the range and put that all into practice.
Nice. And you donated that, and a bunch of people signed up, and we have one winner we're going to announce right now. The winner is George Dorr. Congratulations, George. That's George Dorr, D-O-R-E, George Dorr. I believe that's how you say it. Is that how you say it? I'm having a hard time with last names. Alicia, can we get a ruling? Is that how you say that?
Yes.
Excellent. That sounded the confidence behind that.
Yes.
Well, congratulations. Thank you so much. So you're going to teach George, or I don't know, he might even want to donate it to somebody else, but the point is you're going to get a new student, and I can't tell you how much we appreciate you donating that and being a part of Gun Owners Radio. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's fun for me too.
Yeah, and we're going to spend a couple of segments talking to Matthias and talk a little bit about your history. We're going to talk a little bit about what you do and all kinds of really interesting stuff. So I look forward to it. So, Alicia, talk a little bit more about, tell us what you just told us, tell the audience what you just told us about your students. I think that's interesting.
So this has never come up for me before. However, it's happened twice in the last 2 days, once today and once yesterday. I had, we've talked a lot about how there's a new population of people that tend to be women that are getting more into firearms. We're seeing more and more women. Well, just recently, I've had a number of people come to me that don't speak English.
Wow.
So we're getting, and I don't personally know of any firearms instructors that speak Spanish. I know Matthias speaks German. So I'm kind of getting like a little Rolodex of people that, if I get people that have certain needs. However, these people were Spanish speakers. I might be able to order a burrito if I'm lucky at a taco shop. So my knowledge there was a little interesting. So we made it work. And
Did you use a translator on your phone?
I did not. Luckily I had an opportunity to bring another employee for a very short amount of time to kind of get the basics in, just a few minutes worth, just for safety. And from there, it was much like charades, and we made it work, and they actually did really well.
So when ordering a burrito, how do you say burrito in Spanish? Is really the question.
You probably have to roll that R.
That's awesome. I mean, I really
So-
think that it speaks to the wide variety of people who are interested in firearms
Absolutely.
ownership.
Absolutely.
It's not just all a bunch of handsome mustached guys like Dave.
But if they didn't speak any English, how did they even know to come to you?
That's a great question.
Well, they're
Wish I could have communicated to find out.
Yeah.
I mean, there were customers at DGM, right? Discount
They
Gun.
both booked with me themselves online through the website. So,
Which website?
DGM has a website. You go to discountgunmart.com.
Okay.
So, yeah, private lessons can be
and
booked.
and that's not in Spanish.
No, it is not. You're right.
Well, but you can tell, like, it's just a calendar. Like, they know that.
Well,
the
they don't
second
know what
one
they're
on there is
signing
Monday.
up for. They could be signing up for a burrito class.
Well, maybe they oblad the English.
That would drive me crazy. I would definitely hunt them down and say, "How did you even find out about us?"
Yeah, well, I think it's awesome, and they did well.
They did well.
You got them on target
I did.
and taught them all kinds of safety.
I
Well,
did.
how do you know they did well? They didn't talk to you.
See, the target's very visual, Dave.
Okay, I just checking. They actually hit the target.
They did.
You think they'll be back?
They did. Yeah.
She hopes not.
They took my card.
That's awesome.
think so.
Well, congratulations, Matthias. Do you speak Spanish?
I do not.
Not today.
No, I don't speak
I
Spanish.
wonder what Spanish would sound like with a German accent.
I don't know.
I'll bet
I
you
don't
that-
think.
I bet it'd be pretty cool.
I don't think a
Have 'em roll
German
that R.
accent is one of the more attractive ones. I don't think it is.
I got to tell you, being an instructor with like a German accent, like I'm listening.
I mean,
to you,
it has
Marty.
authority, but it's
Yeah.
not attractive.
Yeah, but see, every time I hear him talk, I think of Sergeant
Clink.
Clink. I can't help it. And I love that. I
Colonel
love
Clink.
that accent.
Yeah,
I
Colonel
love
Clink.
that accent. I think it's.
You know what? I should be a bad guy on an Indiana Jones movie.
Oh my God! Then all your skin will fall off your face. But I think people with that. I mean, I do enough radio. I like folks that have an accent because it differentiates between who's all sitting around the table. But I just think I like listening to it.
Well, I wouldn't even say that you have like a thick accent.
No,
You
no,
just-
no, no,
you
no.
just- You have very good diction, right? You're
Thank
very
you.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
I
Yeah.
think you're very deliberate.
He's been at Chula Vista long enough to where it sounds pretty good.
Where I just kind of like half my words kind of get all
Slurred.
slathered together, and people are like, "What?" And I'm
Yours
like, "Oh,
is
yeah."
new skis. That's what your problem is.
Well, it is kind of weird. My old man's from the Midwest. My mom was from Philly. I grew up in the South.
Oh my
So
Lord!
it's like this weird conglomerate.
And then
of-
Hawaii.
And then Hawaii. I don't know what that did to me. But it was awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, Matthias, we're looking forward to talking to you. I really, truly, for those who don't know, we're also going to do we're going to talk about certain subjects, but I had such a good time speaking with you at the symposium. You and I kind of pulled up a chair and just kind of had a great conversation that it has inspired me we're going to do a Magnum episode. We're going to record it next week. And we're really going to talk about your past and how you got that German accent, and it's just absolutely fascinating. So there's a lot of things that we're not going to touch on that we talked about in the upcoming interview. I really want to talk in the upcoming interview. We're going to talk about your training and your philosophy and beliefs as far as training goes, and all that other good stuff. But I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, all the support you give to San Diego County Gun Owners, all the support you give to Gun Owners Radio. Super generous.
Well,
He
I
doesn't
appreciate
have a
it.
watch.
He doesn't have what? That's the first thing I looked at.
That's the first thing I looked
I wonder
at.
if he has a what?
He's got this new thing now. It's on Instagram. He takes pictures of total strangers. If you got a cool watch, you're going on Instagram.
I think he probably saw me. I found a dude with a Rolex at
I
the
know.
gun show.
I know you did. You suck. One of these
last-
days, you're going to get punched. You know that?
I'm not gonna. I always ask them. Last week, my waiter had a super nice Rolex on.
Yeah, so I hope you
I'm
tipped
like,
well.
oh my God. He should be tipping me. His watch was better than mine.
As soon as you said that at a restaurant,
Yeah.
like, God dang, were you eating?
I'm like,
brother?
Rolex? All right, you're not getting a tip.
I thought that was Denny's. I don't know. Who at Denny's is a waiter? Hey, is there a better tool that empowers a woman to defend against an attacker that's 100 pounds bigger?
Nope.
That's why it's so important for women to learn how to defend themselves with the most effective self-defense tool ever invented. For women, led by women, the Not Me program is designed to help with the training, purchasing a gun, and getting a concealed carry permit. And guess what? It's free. Sign up, go to notmesd.org, notmesd.org. You know, I've done this at least
10 times.
in the last 3 days.
What?
Every woman I meet, I tell them about this.
You've
Not
met
me,
10 women in the past 2 days?
Well, I get a lot of them at KUSI.
Where are you meeting all these women?
Oh, you want
Oh,
to
you
know?
told them about Not Me?
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
I tell
Desi
everybody.
she was just on there Saturday morning. Did you see her?
Nah, I missed her.
She went on there Saturday morning, and she's not going to be happy that you weren't watching. So you better
Don't
change
tell
your story.
her.
We'll cut this. This won't make it to.
Oh, that's right. She listens.
We'll cut this out in post.
She does this. God, I'm in so much trouble.
She's done such a great job. She's.
But I seriously, I mean, do you do that? Every woman I talk to,
I don't know about
I
every
bring
woman.
I bring up the topic. I was just had two guests that were on at the last show.
Yeah, you pushed Not Me?
mother daughter. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good. That's awesome.
Anyway,
Are you familiar, Matthias, with our Not Me program?
I have mentored.
That's what I thought.
Oops.
What do you think about that?
there you go.
It's a good program.
Yeah,
It's really good. It's almost like a public service type of thing.
exactly right.
Yeah, because it's free.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. He's a guy. How can he mentor it?
Well,
Mentor is
our-
different than an ambassador.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Thank you,
You're
Alicia.
I was trying to get in there.
Matthias from San Diego Firearms Academy. Introduce yourself. Talk a little bit about who you are, what your background is.
All right. Well, we've already heard I'm from Germany originally.
Yep.
I came over here, I don't know, 15 years ago, something like that. In Germany, I was in the army. We had a draft. I had to go. Well, I could have figured out a way not to, but I chose to go. It was about a year, and then you're automatically in the reserves, but it works a little different than over here. So in the end, I became a boot camp instructor. That was a lot of fun.
Oh, wow.
Beats being a recruit, I tell you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how long are you in total?
I am not sure. I'd have to guess maybe 2 years, maybe less than 2 years,
You're in a couple years?
because it was not consecutive.
Oh, I see. So why was there a draft? When did Germany?
So after the war, Germany rearmed in 1955, because that's when we regained partial sovereignty. Up until then, the Allies had the say.
Yep.
It was at first it was 2 years. Then they reduced it to 18 months, 12 months, 9 months, and then they got rid of it because now we don't have any more enemies. So there is no draft anymore. It's all voluntary.
But you see, I thought you said you got drafted.
During my time, we had a draft still.
So why was there a draft? Why did you get drafted? Why were they drafting?
Because you had enemies.
Cold War. I mean, that's a remnant from the Cold War. During my time, obviously, Cold War was long over.
Was it 100% draft? Is it like everybody who's 18 has to serve, or
Only men,
okay?
right? So at one point, a woman sued that she wanted to go to the military in a combat role.
Yeah.
Women weren't allowed before. She won, so then women were allowed, but they still didn't have to, right? Equal rights, but not equal responsibility. Kind of a little bit unfair. And then by the time our army was the military was so small that it wasn't even feasible to draft everybody anymore. So people kept suing and finding ways out because they said it's not fair. Why does this guy have to go, but I don't, or the other way?
I know this buddy of mine that I went to high school with did 20 years in the army, and he went through one of a major school. It was either he became an officer. He also went to Ranger School with a guy who was German. And he was like, yeah, I wanted to be in the military. And he basically was like, there really just isn't that much of an opportunity in Germany. And just said, forget it. I'm going to be an American to go join their army.
Yeah, so during my time, the army was so small that there technically was a draft, but not everybody got called.
I see.
I got called, so I went.
Did you enjoy being in the military?
It was nice, yeah.
What'd you do?
So boot camp, 3 months. Then my dad kind of placed me somewhere, right? Because he was in the army for 35 years. He knew everybody. He was what's before sergeant major? What's below that?
Oh,
the American equivalent.
Yeah, Sergeant Major.
whatever that is.
Yeah, yeah. He was an E6.
Our ranks are a little bit different.
Yeah.
And he was in Afghanistan. He was in Kosovo. He was in the anteroom of a bunch of generals. So he knew everybody. And I wanted to go to law school. So my dad said, hey, put this guy somewhere that'll help him for law school. So I ended up in the equivalent to the Pentagon. That was super interesting. Saw a couple of things there that wasn't on the news, but nothing super crazy.
Yeah.
It's not a Pentagon?
Well,
It's a parallelogram or something else?
yeah,
It's a square.
no, it's the Ministry of Defense.
Oh, okay.
But,
Well, that's cool. Well, that's a good experience.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, I saw a couple of interesting things there.
Something you can talk about? Or
He'll have to shoot you.
We had a delegation there from Uzbekistan that wanted to find out about how we do our draft. So they came to learn from us, and I was a little corporal, and they said, "Hey, pick up this delegation at the airport and bring them over here and chaperone them and all this sort of stuff." That was super cool.
So did you become a lawyer?
No, I actually dropped out of law school before I graduated in order to pursue hotel management. So
that's way better.
From a lawyer to hotel management.
That's an upgrade, is what that is.
I think it is.
well, the subject matter is super interesting. I love that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But I didn't like the type of work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now, in Germany, were you into guns? Did the military get you into guns, or when you in Germany were you into guns at all?
So in Germany, we don't have a Second Amendment. There are no gun rights. Gun ownership is possible. It's very, very difficult, but it's possible. You can forget about carry, though. My first exposure really was with the military. My dad had taken me to the armory before, just on some random day. He said, "Hey, you want to come with me?" I said, "Yeah, sure." So we went to look at some guns there, but obviously didn't shoot anything. So my first real hands-on exposure was in boot camp.
Now, growing up in Germany, were you, did you play Army? Was there kids into guns?
Yeah, all of that.
Yeah.
Cowboys and Indians, Army,
So going to the armory, that was kind of cool. Like, hey, wow.
That was pretty cool, yeah. Every once in a while, the barracks there would do an open house once a year or something. My dad would always take us, my brother and me. I think I was more interested than my brother, even though my brother then ended up becoming a cop. Climb around a tank and do all that sort of stuff. It's pretty cool.
Is that why you noticed this?
Yeah.
That's what
Right. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I joined the Army to go to Germany,
You did.
and they sent my butt to Korea, and I had to build
Very
one
different.
of these
Oh, wow. From scratch.
from scratch. I'd been down for 3 years,
Like a Lego kit.
like a Lego kit. Yeah.
Nice.
But I always wanted to go to Germany. But
Well, why don't you?
well, I'm not now because I'm not joining. I mean, they wanted me to re-enlist. I said, okay, well, any place in the United States.
Why'd you want to go to Germany?
Because I wanted to go to Germany for multiple reasons. One, it was massive tanks in Germany.
Yeah.
Yeah, big armor divisions over
Yeah.
there.
That's interesting. It wasn't like,
Yeah, my dad
I thought
was
maybe
in-
it was a cultural thing. Or
Yeah. Well, and then plus two, to be honest with you, I wanted to build a Lotus Super 7 in the auto shop and then go to all the schools, the driving schools, because Germany and Britain, they all had driving schools. We didn't have them in the U.S.
That's interesting.
And I wanted to become a race car driver, and then I was going to come back to the United States and not be looking at you. But unfortunately,
That's
Korea. Yeah, but that's
They,
another story.
well,
But
Korea,
I noticed
they
he's
have
the first
Kia.
guy that's looked at this shirt
Yeah.
and knew what he was looking at.
So, Korea's got Hyundai.
Not back in those days. They didn't even have an asphalt road, dude.
That's the same.
No. They had mopeds. And now, Korea didn't have anything. Everything they had back in the 60s.
Sorry,
before
Korea. Sorry about that,
before
Korea.
you were born.
So, you didn't get in against you got to the United States.
Well, I did enjoy the shooting part in boot camp.
Yeah.
What'd you shoot?
I did pretty well. But so the first pistol or the first gun I ever shot was a P1, which is the successor of the P38.
Yeah.
That's a World War II type of gun.
Yeah.
It was the only difference is the alloy, the metal it's made from.
Right.
Other than that, it's still the same gun, and that was in 2003.
Sam would love this.
That was
Sam
great.
would love
Yeah, that was fun. And then the standard issue is the G36
Yeah.
now, right? I have a G3 clone at home, but I would like to get a G36 because that's a really neat gun, but they're so expensive.
Oh, really? Is that what this
Yeah.
was?
And it's funny because I drilled on that gun so much and so hard, blindfolded in the dark, upside down and everything.
Wow.
I love that gun a lot, but now I don't like the AR.
No kidding.
You know,
You
but
like, you like it better, huh?
it's probably though because I haven't spent a lot of time with the AR.
Right.
If I spend more time on it, I'd probably like it better.
Bigger
Yeah.
ammo, right?
The 762 NATO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a little bigger than
Yeah.
the 5.56.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Bigger's better.
So, but okay. So you get out of the military. You're in Germany. Can't really own a gun. Were guns an interest, or when did owning guns become really interesting to you?
For me personally, it was not an interest, but only because it was not an option.
Yeah.
Had it been an option, I probably would have been interested in it. A friend of mine has a farm, right? And he has livestock. So he went to try and get a gun, and they asked him for necessity. In Germany, you have to prove necessity. And he said, well, I have geese. I have a problem with the fox. So they told him, well, your need is fulfilled by this specific gun. That's what you can get.
Oh wow, that's funny.
Yeah.
Why do you think that? Why was it so restrictive?
How far back do you want me to go?
Yeah, I was just going to say.
Well, I mean, I think I don't know. Just in general, maybe from 30,000 feet. You know, were they just influenced by all the other European countries? Was it left over from World War II, or what are your thoughts on why it was so restrictive in Germany?
So, very briefly, I'll go back to about 17th century. Before then, no restrictions, no gun control, no nothing. But in the 17th century, because the German territory there, the Holy Roman Empire at the time, feudal states, kings, queens, lords, whatever, they were in power. They wanted to keep the power. So they decided, you know what? Only soldiers. State-sanctioned people can have weapons. Then fast forward 1848, we had a revolution in Germany where people were trying to get into democracy. That didn't work out. But ironically, all the liberals that wanted to have democracy were the ones that wanted gun rights for the people. And their model, what they were after, was the Second Amendment in the United States.
Oh, interesting.
So the conservatives, the rulers, the monarchs, all of them, they were against it. They didn't want none of that. Kind of opposite from here. Because over here, it's,
Right.
you know. But in Germany, the liberals, the Democrats, they said, no, the people need to be armed because, you know, the monarchs, we need to stand up to the monarchs or be able to.
Interesting.
Wouldn't you love to tell a liberal that?
Well, there's a whole yeah. I'd love to tell them a lot of things.
Yeah, well, that's no story. Hey, a lot of companies waste an enormous amount of money on marketing. The design is excellent. The photos are beautiful. Your website looks great, but it's not getting customers because you don't have the words that make people buy. But now you can fix that with Sage Tree. Sage Tree can help you find the words that make it easy for your customer to understand what you do and how to buy from you. Stop wasting money today and schedule a call. Getting started is easy. Visit sagetree.com and click on the schedule an appointment button. That's sagetree.com and click on the schedule a call button. And you know who's going to do that? Me. Because my website has been down for I can't even tell you, and I think I need to resurrect.
Well, I got to tell you, San Diego County Gun Owners uses Sage Tree. Gun Owners Radio uses Sage Tree.
And who was that guest that came in that it was ready before he was ready?
Oh, yeah.
A DC comic.
Yeah, the DC comic. You
Gabe.
missed a great
Gabe.
interview.
Yeah.
Too bad.
I was watching, but yeah.
So anyway, I'm
We're here
going
with-
to be a testimonial.
Do it. Sage Tree's the best. If you have a need, go to Sage Tree. They are the absolute best. So Matthias, talk about. So you get to the United States. What was your first? Like what inspired you to buy a gun? What happened that you actually purchased your first firearm?
You know, to be honest, it was just the fact that I could. That
I
is
think
so different
I think
from
that's
Germany.
a great reason.
That is so different from Germany. That is something that I could have never imagined I can do in Germany. Freedom.
What else was? So you came to the United States. Was there anything other than that? Like, was there something else in America that like, well, I got to do this just because I can, or is that pretty much it? Was that the one thing that you did because you can?
I think that's the one thing. Yeah,
It sets us apart, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, we don't have that. I don't know how many other countries there are that have a fundamental right to own firearms. Is there? I don't know if there is. There might be, but I don't know one.
It's a good question. I don't really know. Maybe we'll ask my nephew here in the next segment, see if he'll probably know. Okay, so you bought one just because you could. Where were you living?
I was in Boston at the time. I lived in Boston for 5 years. That's my port of entry.
Do you remember what'd you buy?
Bought it from a coworker. A Taurus PT 908 9mm.
Really? Any particular reason you bought that?
because my coworker offered it.
Yeah.
He wanted to get rid of it, and I said, "Yeah, sure, let me try it." And looked at it and felt good, good size for me. It was ergonomically, it was a good fit for me, so I went with it.
So was that the bug that bit you, or what happened after that?
Pretty much,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then
I was a boot camp instructor in the Army, so I had been teaching people there, and then when I came to America, I took my wife to the range, and then every time somebody came to visit from Germany, we went shooting because they all wanted to do that. And so I've been training people like privately for a long time too.
your wife's American.
My wife's American.
What were her thoughts? She picks up this crazy German, brings him to the United States, and boom, he's getting into guns. What was her thought? Was she pro gun or?
No, she was a little bit disappointed because she liked that I was this little Euro boy.
We ruined you.
But now I'm American. I got my pair of boots at home and a hat, cowboy hat, and all that. You know, closet full of guns.
That's awesome. That's so
Yeah.
great.
I assimilate it like I should.
Yeah, you're an American.
Yeah.
Now, you know.
Now I am.
So, congratulations. What's the favorite gun that you've purchased?
I would say the Taurus.
Really?
Yeah, it's nothing special. The whole entire thing is made out of metal. It's heavy. They don't even make it anymore, right? They stopped production, I think, in '97. Mine is from '96, but it's purely sentimental because it's the first one I got.
Sure.
Yeah.
So not only did she brought you to America, and here you not only became a gun owner, but now you are a firearms instructor.
Yeah.
How did that happen? What was that transition?
So, like I said, every time somebody from Germany came to visit, they all wanted to go to the range and shoot, or BLM land and plink. Friends of mine from Germany, Martin, he served as well. His little brother didn't, but they came over with their dad and a friend, and we had to stop at the store first and buy a bunch of melons because they wanted to blow up the watermelons. Yeah. No, that was fun. And then really I got into instructing around George Floyd. Because then really a lot of people came up to me and said, "Hey, you know how to shoot. I want to learn. What can you tell me about it? What should I get? What do I need to do?" And I figured, you know what? There's probably a market for this. So
what advice would you have for people who are thinking, that they might want to become an instructor? Like what's a route you think they should take?
For new instructors?
Yeah, somebody who's been shooting for years and now they want to be an instructor.
Well, you got to like instructing. I can be on the range with 20 people for 8 hours a day and I come home relaxed. It's not work for me.
Yeah.
So you got to like instructing.
Good advice.
And you might be a good instructor for some people, but not for others. You need to be aware of that. So my kid and we go to the range sometimes. I think I'm doing okay with my kid, even though as the parent, that's probably not the best combination. I really, really do well with beginners. I love having beginners.
Why do you think that is?
Because they're really excited.
Yeah.
They don't have any bad habits.
They're eager. They want to soak it up. They listen.
Yeah. They're very excited.
Alicia, do you teach your kids?
I have. Yeah. All
Firearms?
4 of them. I have.
How is it
But-
with mom teaching them?
Mine are actually. Well, here's what's different. I homeschooled my kids, so my kids are used to me. Dynamics a little bit different. However, it'd be interesting, Matthias. Maybe I'll give you mine and I'll take yours.
Okay. You got kids
Let's try
full?
that. Yeah.
Sure.
Curious to see how that goes. Yeah. No, my
Let's do it.
my kids listened well. But I agree that dynamic often does not work. Parents and kids,
then-
also spouses, don't
No.
work well
Oh,
together.
spouses
Uh-uh.
definitely
Yeah,
don't work.
yeah.
And then after you guys get done training each other's kids, paintball. Take them to paintball. See how that goes. Family on family
Yeah.
paintball.
Yeah.
So, is there anything? Talk a little bit about your philosophy on shooting in general. Is there something that you firmly believe that, or something that people should keep in mind, or a tip or a trick or something that you teach people that maybe you don't see that often? Or are you a stick to the basics kind of guy?
Well, I think the basics are important.
Yeah.
But I think it is very important for people to have to sit down and deliberate with themselves if it's the right thing for them. Because like I said at the symposium, CCW Lifestyle, if you get a gun and you plan to carry and only then you find out, wait a minute, religiously I'm not supposed to, or my conscience doesn't allow me to use lethal force, you want to make that choice before you decide whether or not to get the gun,
Yeah. Do you carry every day?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long? When did you get your CCW?
Don't know exactly, but I haven't renewed it yet.
Okay.
So less than 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How talk about the difference, between, the month prior to being able to carry, the month after you were able to carry. What are some noticeable differences to you?
So I had a LTC in Massachusetts, over there, license to carry,
Yeah.
LTC, Class A, unrestricted. And then I came to California and I had to give it up. That took some getting used to not having it,
Interesting.
Well, first it took some used to having it because you always feel the weight. You're super conscious about it. Nobody's supposed to see it, so you keep checking if somebody can see it. Is it printing? So you really got to get used to it first. And then when I came to California, I had to get used to not having it.
I found I went through the same thing, and it was like if you don't have it, you'd kind of go through, that wallet panic feeling.
Yeah.
Like where's my, and when you get really, I found that like a month into it or so, I was so comfortable by that point that I'd have that wallet panic feeling, like, oh, I forgot my, oh no, I got it, everything's good. But I don't really know how to explain this because it's not like there are places I wouldn't go without a gun. If I felt I needed a gun to go there, I wouldn't go there. So that's not what I'm describing. But I think that, and I'm assuming everybody kind of does this. When you're going through an analysis, you're kind of, 20 times a day, you kind of check in with yourself, like, a self-awareness thing, and your surroundings, that sort of thing. And I having a firearm, your ability to defend yourself figures into that. Mm-hmm. At least it does for me. Mm-hmm. And I can't, now that I carry, I don't know how did I do this for 40 years, or whatever, how do people go around without carrying? There are so many problems that could happen that would be solved with a firearm. There are so many problems in society that do happen that are solved by your ability to carry a firearm. And I think to myself, how can people just blissfully walk through life without the ability to defend yourself? I don't know. Do you ever have similar thoughts? Or
That's one of those situations where people be like, that's never going to happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right.
That happens in movies. That happens in a different neighborhood. That doesn't happen here. That'll never happen to me.
So what would you tell somebody who said that would never happen to me?
Well, you get auto insurance, right? You don't think you'll have an accident. You don't get insurance because you think you're going to have an accident. You get it just in case.
Yeah.
That's an analogy that you hear a lot, I guess. Insurance is, probably a good analogy.
What would you tell new shooters other than have deliberate with yourself? What's some hands-on advice that you'd have for new shooters? What's something that new shooters do often?
So first of all, get training is the best advice I can give anybody, and get training with an instructor. Going to the range by yourself and getting comfortable, getting used to it, that's great, but go get an instructor too. I go get an instructor every once in a while. I take a class with somebody every once in a while, because if you're on the range and you're doing something wrong the whole time, you don't know that you're doing that wrong. You need somebody else to see that for you, like anticipating recoil. That's a big thing. That's a lot of people do that.
Well, even Jordan had a coach, right? That's what they say. So no matter how good, no matter how many years you've been putting holes in paper, getting instruction from somebody, I would imagine, is enormously invaluable.
Yeah. I'd never teach a class where I don't learn something also.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I've had people in the class that were way more experienced than I was, because I didn't have the benefit of shooting in the backyard with my dad or my grandpa when I grew up. So I've had former law enforcement in my class. Some of them, they really needed some advice, like corrections officers or border patrol. They didn't pass their qualification, and they came to say, hey, why am I not hitting the target? What can you show me? But some of them, they just come because they want the certificate.
Yeah.
They know way more than I do.
Yeah.
And, we learn from each other.
Well, you were talking about being a mentor earlier for some of our shooting socials, and I think teaching other people it made me an enormously better shooter.
I agree.
What's your website?
Well, most of everything I do is through Instagram, San Diego Firearms School. We do have a website, but that's getting revamped.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So find you on Instagram.
San Diego Firearms School, all one word.
Hey, gun prom tickets are on sale. You need to join San Diego County gun owners and the rest of the Second Amendment community at the Town and Country in Mission Valley. Get your fancy suit on or your cowboy boots. Get your dress out of the closet, iron it, and hang out with some like-minded people that are all about self-defense. Second Amendment dinner is coming up on September 16th. Get your tickets now and reserve your spot for a night with great people, great food, and drinks, all at a great cost. Go to gunprom.com to get your tickets now. Buy a table. Bring your friends and family. That's gunprom.com and buy your tickets today.
I got to get a suit. I got to buy a suit.
You have a
I
suit.
got a couple more months, though.
You have a suit.
Maybe, hopefully, if I buy a suit in a couple more months, it might be smaller than the suit I buy today. So let's all pray for that. You got a suit for 9/16 for September 16th?
Do I look like I'm going to wear a suit?
What are you going to wear?
You can
Like
slap a tie on that shirt.
Car shirt?
Oh, that's right. Alicia, do you have your dress picked out?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
What color are we going with this year?
I don't know.
Why, you
Sounds
want to
good.
What
match?
color should I go with? I went blue last year.
Lavender.
Lavender. I'm
Lavender.
too pale for that.
Never mind then.
Pasty.
Matthias, you coming?
I will be there. I have my suit all prepared. I ordered
You
new
already ha-
shoes and everything.
Really?
Yeah.
He's on it.
Going for
This guy's on it.
Wait a
What
minute.
what color
You
suit?
got to get a new watch.
Well, I got to figure out which watch. So it depends on which suit I buy, which watch I wear.
You got to get a. I think you should get a silk shark skin. You would be styling.
I don't know which watch. That would be a very complicated watch pick.
You wouldn't have any trouble.
All right. Well, let's see what we can. All right. Now for our favorite segment. Of course, last week the segment was Stump My Grandson.
Yeah, and Grandpa did it.
Yeah, Grandpa stumped him. Well, at least read the question that stumped him. But we're changing it back to Stump My Nephew. Sam, you there?
Yeah, how are you guys?
Good, buddy. How you doing?
Oh, can't complain.
All right. So Matthias is actually going to read your question. It's kind of an unusual. It's not. I don't know. It's
It
a
doesn't
little bit.
deserve a. There's not a right and a wrong answer.
Yeah, it's really more commentary. So it's kind of a bye week. So I think you'll get as long as you give your opinion, you'll get it right here. So, but anyway, without further ado, go for it, Matthias.
All right. So this question is from Rob from Santee. And the question goes, what are the mechanical differences between reciprocating and non-reciprocating bolts or charging handles? If one is better than the other, why continue to produce new firearms utilizing one over the other?
Rob from Santee, thanks for writing in. It might just be my imagination, but I think we've had some questions in the past from Rob from Santee. So thanks for being a continued listener and a repeat question asker. If I'm wrong, then just ignore everything I just said. The difference between reciprocating and non-reciprocating charging handles. So in a semi-auto rifle or shotgun, this usually refers to rifles. Of course, you need some way to charge the gun. With almost all designs, the bolt moves back and forth or reciprocates. So the charging handle must in some way pull it back so that it can then be released forward by the action spring and operate the action. Simple enough. The question is, what's the difference between reciprocating and non-reciprocating charging handles, and is one better? In some firearms, like the AR platform, which I'm sure most of you are familiar with in some way.
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it?
Yeah.
The charging handle does not move with the bolt. You pull it back and release it, and that charges the gun. And then every time the bolt moves back and forth during the firing cycle, the charging handle stays in place because of that little latch on it, so it doesn't hit you in the face 30 times. Or 10 times if you're in California, I guess. For example, AK rifles, the charging handle is directly a part of the bolt carrier, so it does move back and forth with each time the firearm cycles. Whether one is better than the other or not is a matter of personal preference. Some people like the ability to manually force the gun into battery, like on an M14 or on an AK or something of that nature. Some people prefer the idea that the charging handle won't move, so that maybe if it's located forward and on the left side of the gun, like on an FN SCAR, people like to be able to use their thumbs and wrap around the charging handle without getting their thumbs torn off. And FN actually did release recently a non-reciprocating charging handle version of the SCAR. So I guess there's your answer. There's your commentary.
I think you got that right. Congratulations.
I agree.
Yeah. Now, Matthias served. When did you serve in the German Army?
2003, I think I was drafted.
2003. So, Sam, what rifle was he using in 2003 in the German Army?
If Matthias was a rifleman in the Bundeswehr, he would have used a G36, which has sort of an interesting charging handle arrangement. It's located in the center on the top of the bolt carrier group, and the handle part folds to the side, so it's ambidextrous. You just reach in and pull it out to whichever side you prefer, left side if you're right-handed, the other way around if you're wrong-handed, and you can just use it like that. So even though it's attached to the bolt carrier, you wouldn't really call it a reciprocating charging handle because nothing sticks out unless it's in use.
See that? That's why I asked the question. Did he get it right?
He did get it absolutely right.
He nailed it out of the ballpark.
The select fire switch is also ambidextrous. You have one on each side.
Nice. And you said that's still your favorite.
Absolutely.
He likes that over the AR. Sam, what do you think?
I have never fired an SL8, which is the civilian version we can get here, but it's a very elegant weapon, very refined design. Very little change has been made to it since its introduction in the 90s. I think the only thing they've changed was a different stock and adding some rail systems. But I would love to get the chance to fire one. It's really, in my opinion, very well designed.
I think if you're going to like something better than an AR, I think a G36 is a good way to go.
Because it's German.
Because it's German. That's not exact. That's not what I was going to.
But that's why it's so well designed, because it's German.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably true.
And he probably drives a Mercedes.
Do you drive a Mercedes?
Toyota.
Oh,
Oh!
It's a pricey shoe.
Well, yeah, and it'll last longer. No offense.
So, Sam, awesome job. Very good information.
I think I just
One
heard
more
I
question.
think I just heard a laugh out of Sam.
He's a hoot. He'll laugh. What we were just talking, is there any other country that has a Second Amendment equivalent?
To the U.S.
I am not very well equipped to answer that question. Anything I can give you on that topic just comes from reading news headlines here and there. I don't know of any countries that have adopted constitutions which, to begin with, enshrine the right of the people to keep and bear arms without making any real stipulations there. I have heard that the Czech Republic has adopted within the past few years some kind of verbiage as an amendment to their constitution, allowing people to own firearms for self-defense. I believe Hungary has something vaguely similar to that, but I'm really not sure. Most countries don't. In a lot of countries, like the Republic of Ireland, for example, you have to specify a reason to own firearms. And in many countries, self-defense is not legally considered a valid reason. It's only hunting or competition.
Dumb. Well, you were saying it's kind of like that in Germany.
Yeah, self-defense is not a good reason. They don't take that.
What about it makes me feel like a real man? Would they accept that? I think that's...
No, not in Germany, no.
All right, jeez. Golly.
That's why you can't go to Germany.
Hey, what's your new blog about?
My most recent blog post is on the topic of collecting military surplus firearms.
Nice.
Some of you might not find that very interesting, but I think it's interesting. So you can read it or don't read it. That's your choice. I would prefer you read it.
That's a hell of a sales job.
I'm great at selling my own work.
There you go.
So what I'm talking about in this blog post is the ethics of collecting milsurp. I talk about really two things. The kind of mindset you have to have going in of kind of being an amateur historian. It forces you to be a historian, to study up on that old gun you have and to study up on sort of the care and feeding, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And you really have a responsibility to preserve it for future generations to enjoy. And the second thing I talk about is kind of the moral implications of owning literal weapons of war, which have very likely been fired in anger and may well have been used to commit some atrocities by whichever army carried those weapons. So I talk about kind of my thoughts on those two aspects of collecting.
That sounds super interesting. What's do you have any pieces that were used in war?
Well, yeah, what gave me the idea to write it is that I've spoken about a couple of surplus rifles I have in previous blog posts. One of them, that last-ditch Japanese Type 99, which was made in 1944 and may have seen action, and the other one, a German-produced Mauser G98, made under contract for the Ottoman Empire, which very likely saw combat in the maybe not in World War I, but very possibly in the Turkish War of Independence in the early 20s.
Well, that's awesome, man. I look forward to reading it. I have not read your blog yet this week, but look forward to reading it. And thank you so much for answering the question and doing all you do. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Well, as always, thanks for having me on. Thanks for the softball question this week. It was more of a commentary piece, and thank you, everyone, for listening.
You bet, bud.
We don't do that very often. We thought we'd give you
toss him up a softball. Well, he did a good job. Look at how good he did, even with a,
And we still don't know if it was the truth. Have a good one, buddy.
Thanks for watching this episode from Gun Owners Radio. If you're watching mainstream media, you're not getting the truth about guns and the Second Amendment. Gun Owners Radio is the easiest way to stay on top of the Second Amendment fight, the fight for your self-defense rights. You can watch our live stream on YouTube every Sunday from 4 to 6 p.m. California time, or if you're in San Diego, AM 1170, FM 96.1, The Answer. We're also available on your favorite podcast platform. Just do a search for Gun Owners Radio and you'll find our show. Don't forget to support our sponsors. Click on the links in the show notes and support the businesses that support your Second Amendment rights. Like and subscribe to help defend and restore the Second Amendment, not just in California, but across the country.